Hi there, listener. My name is Ian Martin, and welcome to episode 100 of the Ski Podcast. To be honest, we have over 150 episodes, but this is the 100th regular episode that we've released, plus lots of bonus episodes as well. Now, I've spent many hours chatting with all of the very fascinating people in the ski industry over the last 5 years while recording these podcasts. But I thought for our 100th episode, I'd make this a little different and give you, listener, a little bit of the story behind the Ski Podcast. Now, long-time listeners might know that we launched almost 5 years ago now, back in October 2017. And at the time, I was already listening to loads of podcasts, but the only ski podcasts I could find were based in the States. And I knew Jim Duncan, my co-founder from my previous work with Natives, and I knew he produced at least one podcast. So I asked him if he fancied a new venture. And a couple of weeks later, we recorded the pilot episode, sadly lamenting the cancellation of the jump.
The jump has sadly been cancelled. It was launched in 2014. I think that was an Olympic year, and it was hosted by Davina McCall. And there was lots of celebrities that took part in it. And essentially it was a show, or it still is a show, maybe, who knows, about celebrities who went out to a ski resort and they learnt lots of different disciplines. And obviously it culminated in them doing a ski jump. There were massive winners of huge celebrities such as Spencer Matthews, Joe McElderry, and I'm sure there's more. And also it attracted some other big names, didn't it, Ian?
It certainly did. I mean, a couple of, at least two Knights of the Realm appeared on the show, so Stephen Redgrave and Sir Bradley Wiggins. That is, yeah, and there was other Olympians. There was Beth Tweddle as well, I believe. Oh yeah, Beth Tweddle. She was one of the ones who had, unfortunately, one of the worst injuries. I think she ended up being airlifted to hospital and fractured a couple of vertebrae in her neck when she was on the show.
So the reason we're talking about it, obviously, we're both huge fans of the show, but it's slightly old news now, I think. But as this is a new podcast and it's an important topic for anyone who loves skiing, that it's been axed or not axed, not renewed for this current year. Ian, do you know why that was? Do you think you'll have a comeback?
Yeah, well, I believe the reason that has been put out by the production company is that they don't want to conflict with the Winter Olympics coming up, because the Winter Olympics are in February. That has typically been some of the time that they've been filming, and it would make it difficult, so they have to put it on a bit later, so they're having a fallow year rather than have it later in the season. However, it possibly is a kind of softer way of letting the show kind of disappear. It has been very expensive to run, partly because of the actual huge amount of money they've had to spend on insurance and medical costs, because so many contestants have been injured during the course of the show. So with the viewing figures, slacking over time, even though there've been about 2 million people watching the show on a weekly basis. It probably, I think I'll be surprised if we see the show again. Now, that went well enough to keep going, and I think we built up a good rapport, covering anything that piqued our interest, from Ed Sheeran to Genepi to Jim's love of funiculars.
I'm pretty excited. I mean, the skiing doesn't look great, but I'm going to go because it now means I've only been on the second steepest funicular in the world. Also the steepest. The steepest is obviously in the Blue Mountains in Australia, in the Katoomba Railway.
Right, obviously, yeah.
I mean, the steepest water one, if you're interested, is in Linton and Lymouth down the road from me in North Devon. I won't bore you, I know a lot about funicular.
Our celebrity coverage started in episode 10 when Jim spilled the beans on Sting, and when the Olympic Games started in Pyeongchang, we bravely decided to produce an episode every day. I like to think of that as our Hamburg period, where we honed our skills. In reality, we talk randomness about top-class athletes, but 15 episodes in as many days undoubtedly tightened up our style.
Hello and welcome to day 13 of the Knowledge is Powder Olympic podcast. I don't know how you're feeling, but I feel Olympic fatigue may be starting to set in.
Yeah, it could be, but there's not long. There's not a lot left now. It's almost over. No, I'm still enjoying it. It's good. I watched it. I don't know if you saw it just now. I literally just came out of the media centre where I saw the the shoot-off, is that what it's called, in the ice hockey between Canada and the USA and the women, because it was level after normal time, added time, and then they had a penalty shootout. Very exciting.
You really are throwing yourself into this.
Well, it was on, while I was preparing for this, and Canada had won 24 times in a row until the USA beat them in the shootout. Just then, it's exciting.
I remember when Chill Factor in Manchester confirmed they become our first paying sponsor for the 18-19 winter season. I was out on a holiday in Spain. I can remember exactly where I was at the time when I saw that email. And the money they gave us was nothing compared to the time we were putting in. But at least we weren't doing it completely free anymore. Now, listeners often ask how I decide on content. The simple rule of thumb is, if it sounds interesting to me, then I tend to include it. So you get things like the increasing number of wolves in the Alps, or drug dealers in ski resorts, or the Aspen Ski Thief.
Derek and his wife were essentially had, over those, say about 15 years, stolen about 13,000 pairs of skis that were bought by the Aspen Skiing Company as part of their retail operation, and sold them on eBay. These 13,000 pairs of skis were paid for $6 million. The Aspen Ski Company paid for them, and then Derek and his wife sold them for about $3.2 million over the course of that period on eBay.
I can't help. I know it's wrong, but I can't help smiling when I hear that, because it's just outrageous.
Exactly.
I can't believe that anyone would do that.
The cherry on top of the whole sundae is that at the time they were doing this, they billed the ski company for the ski boxes that they sent the stolen skis to their eBay customers in.
Now, Jim left the show in August 2020, and at that point, my workload went up as he'd been doing the editing, but it also gave me the opportunity to mix it up and change the format of the show. We had a lot more special episodes, and one thing I've really stuck with is I've made sure we've had at least one female voice on every episode. I've also had to learn how to edit, and I've made a few mistakes along the way. And most commonly, the problem is with bad audio. Sometimes you just can't do anything about it. If you have a guest and they're dropping out due to bad Wi-Fi, or they forgot to use headphones and you're getting really bad feedback, do you just drop them? Or do you use the bad audio? You just have to make a decision, and sometimes I've just had to go with the audio. And what was interesting in COVID was that all podcasts had to record remotely for a while, and it was a real leveller. I don't know if you remember that interview on the BBC where the guy's daughter walked in. That was big news at the time, but now everybody's been on a Zoom that's gone wrong. So occasionally you might hear dogs or cars or workmen or school kids on the background. That's something that's just a bit normal now. I did mention COVID, though. Back in March 2020, I really thought the ski industry might never recover. When we couldn't travel, the podcast genuinely helped me get through 2020 and 2021. It was so important to my mental health to be in contact with people in the Alps when it wasn't necessarily possible to go out there. And, talking to people about anything helps in terms of mental health. For me, more than anything, I realised how lucky I was to have the podcast there, just to enable me to have that contact. And hopefully, I think during that period, a number of listeners came to us who were missing their skiing and were able to enjoy it vicariously as well. So I like to think that it helped me and maybe some other people as well. Now, on a more positive note, I've met a lot of different kind of celebrities over the years. There have been lots of Olympians, Graham Bell, his brother Martin Bell, Chemi Alcott, Emily Sarsfield is on regularly, Dave Riding, such a nice guy. I've met Paralympians, Millie Knight. Recently I spoke to Permin Zabrigan, who was one of my racing heroes when I was a kid. One of the highlights definitely was meeting Eddie the Eagle Edwards. He was so nice, really entertaining. I'd love to interview him again at some point.
In relation to the film itself, I think I read somewhere that Taron Egerton kind of met you beforehand, and you were actually quite impressed with his portrayal in terms of how he picked up your mannerisms and things.
Absolutely, because Taron wanted to get an idea of my accent and my mannerisms, and so I went down to Pinewood Studios, met him there, sat with him for a good old afternoon, early evening, drinking tea and eating biscuits and cake and just having a chat. And he picked up my accent, my mannerisms and everything. And he must have watched a lot of video from the Olympic Games, because everything I did at Calgary, he did in the movie. And he did an amazing job. And I couldn't believe how much he looked like I looked 30 years ago. He had the jaw, the moustache, the glasses, the hair, and he sounded and acted just like me. It was unreal. And I was invited out on set in Garmisch where they did a lot of the filming. And I walked out on set, and my jaw just dropped when Taron turned round, and he looked just like me. I went, oh my God. And then, of course, Hugh Jackman as well, and he turned around, he said, Eddie, I want a selfie. And he came rushing over and thought, oh my God, this guy, this movie superstar, wanted to do a selfie. And so it was really nice guy.
I've been lucky enough to interview our medal winners at the Olympics, Billy Morgan, Jenny Jones, Izzy Atkin, Zoe Atkin, in fact all of the riders in the current freestyle setup, led by the coach Pat Sharples. And I've known Pat for many years. There's a really good special interview that you can listen to with him. Also, some of the other people I've known for a long time in the industry, Warren Smith. We've got a special with him, Tony McWilliam, who founded Faction Skis, Jim Adlington, who founded Planks Clothing. I really enjoyed the interviews I did with Andrew Maxwell and Marcus Brigstock about the Altitude Comedy Festival. That was really interesting, really amusing. And you know what? I've even interviewed Roger Federer.
And tell us, Roger, have you seen much of Switzerland yourself? And have you ever been skiing there?
Of course, I went all around Switzerland as a kid with my parents. They were big hikers. I remember a lot in Appenzell. We used to go there a lot. Then skiing, as we're from Basel, we didn't go always to one particular place because we had Fasnacht, which is the big carnival in Switzerland, and then we would go to different ski resorts every other year.
Other favourite features that I've recorded over time. Steve Cross, you might remember him. He was a guy who built a chairlift in his garden during lockdown for his kids. I absolutely love that interview.
You may not have heard Steve Cross, but there's quite a good chance that you'll have actually seen him, because he is a guy who created that amazing video that you probably have seen of a kind of chairlift in a garden for his two daughters. Firstly, Steve, can I just say, I mean, it was just so joyful watching that video. You know, I absolutely just loved it, and clearly I wasn't alone. I mean, I think millions of people around the world have seen it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's. I wasn't expecting it to be. I mean, we just put it up on social media so that kind of friends and family could see it, and I've just been absolutely blown away with how viral it went and where it's ended up.
Well, it's gone around the world for sure. There's no doubt. I mean, I wouldn't have a clue how many people have seen it overall, but that one had 14 million views, and I know it was in the Daily Mail and places all over the world. Famous, but without necessarily people knowing your name.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The way it works, well, the power comes from you. You have to pull them up every time. Was that hard work?
It was. I mean, the first time that I did it seemed to work okay. It did seem so. The kids loved it. So I mean, for about 2 weeks, for the 2 weeks of Easter, they were pretty much on it every night. Starting to get aching hands rather than kind of aching muscles was the thing I was finding.
Okay,
making it difficult.
Well, brilliant. And what I'd really like to know, I guess our listeners would like to know as well, is, did they all get on the end of the rope and haul you up there? Have you had a go in it?
Well, no. We tested it before I put the kids on it. I threw some weights and some sandbags on it, and we tested it up to about 50 kilos. Yeah. So a fairly safe weight to put the kids on, but I didn't test it any higher than that. I wasn't gung ho enough to see if it would work. Because obviously it doesn't have a brake, so if they did let go of the rope pulling me up, I would have shot backwards fairly quickly. So didn't get a chance to do it myself.
That wouldn't have looked so good on video.
No.
Also, perhaps the most inspiring one that I've been lucky enough to do was with a guy called Antoine Motillon. He's a paraplegic piste basher driver. He works in Courchevel, and Courchevel adapted his snow groomer so that he could get into it from his wheelchair and drive it. Maybe more than anything, it's stories like this that I really appreciate having the opportunity to share and to meet people like Antoine.
En fait, c'était un rêve d'enfant.
Oui.
J'ai toujours rêvé de faire ça.
Well, he's been a snow groomer driver
He is a pilot of gliders, and he became an instructor. And it was when he was flying over the mountain near Pralu, and he saw the groomers. It reminded him of the fact that, you know, when he was younger, he always had that idea of being a piste basher driver. And what happened after that is he ended up getting in contact with the manufacturer Caspora, and Caspora, you know, were very enthusiastic about the concept of being able to adapt one of their machines so that it would be possible for someone who doesn't have use of their legs to be able to drive it.
Est-ce que ça se passe avec Caspora?
Ça s'est très bien passé. Ils ont, dès la première rencontre, ils m'ont tout de suite dit que ça les...
Actually, he was talking there about how the job is very different from other jobs. But he had actually done a trial with Courchevel for 6 weeks, and they decided that it was going to work. And they had to adapt the machine slightly. So his job is, it's exactly the same as everyone else who's working on the machines. But in his particular machine itself, instead of a steering wheel, he has sticks on the left-hand side, which allows him to change the direction forward, back, left or right. And with the accelerator on the right-hand side is controlled by hand as well, instead of a foot accelerator, which is actually still fitted in the vehicle because he shares that vehicle with someone else who drives it on the other shift, which is, I think, from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. or something like that. The other significant difference with how the vehicle has been set up is that there's a hydraulic attachment on the outside that comes around and allows him to get in and out of the cab and down into his wheelchair again. But he loves that job. He's outside throughout the night. Everyone else is asleep. He's out there and he sees incredible things on the mountain. When he talks about it, he's clearly very inspired by the job itself. So I asked him about that and what other potential there might be.
Le travail, c'est comme quoi? C'est très différent des autres métiers.
Ouais, c'est complètement différent parce que des gens travaillent la nuit.
Right. He's saying, the best thing for him about that job itself is he does exactly the same work as the other drivers, and it's a quality. But what really appeals to him is the fact that he's able to forget about being handicapped, while he is driving, because when he's back in the station, he is in a wheelchair, but in the machine he's just like everyone else.
Now, I'd like to thank everybody who's contributed to the podcast over these 5 years and these 100 regular episodes. I've had loads of snow reports from different people. I've had so many people appear on the show. I'd like to thank all of those guests. Obviously, Jim, my co-founder. And, I'd like to thank those people who contributed commercially. I'd like to thank Intersport and Battleface, who are both commercial partners, but especially Switzerland Tourism. I really love the chance to discover Switzerland a little bit more, and I've loved featuring it. But after 3 years, we've come to a mutual decision to bring that partnership to an end. But I'm delighted to confirm that from episode 101 onwards, our new sponsor is, drumroll, the world's largest ski area, Les Trois Vallées. And just going to include a short interview with the director of Les Trois Vallées, Olivier Desaulty. Great. Well, I'm delighted to be here just now with Olivier Desaulty, director of Les Trois Vallées. Hi, Olivier. How are you?
Hi, Jan. How are you? I'm okay.
Excellent. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show. This is episode 100, and I promised our listeners there would be a big announcement. And I'm delighted to announce that Les Trois Vallées are going to be the main sponsor of the ski podcast, starting from this episode going onwards. So I wanted to invite you on the show, Olivier, just to say hello to all of our listeners. And also, I'm pretty sure everybody will know Les Trois Vallées. It is the largest ski area in the world. I'm quite lucky because I worked there for 4 seasons, 3 in Mirabeau-Monteret and 1 in Courchevel. So I know the area pretty well. This winter is going to be a really big winter for Les Trois Vallées, because in February time, the World Alpine Ski Championships are going to be held there. I wondered how the area is preparing for that. Is that the main event for you? Is that what you're most excited about, Olivier?
Yes, because it's quite uncommon. It's very special this year with the championship. it's exceptional, and we think with the championship, it's a worldwide opportunity for us to be known by lots of people, as you said, and the largest skiing area in the world.
Yeah, well, the focus of the world will be on Les Trois Vallées at that point. But, during the course of the podcast, over this winter, and in fact, all through all 4 seasons, because it's a place that you can go to all year round, we're going to be covering lots of features. I'm going to be travelling out there by train. I know that's quite an important thing to you. And I think, Olivier, I'm right in saying that with the direct train this winter, it's possible to go to some more resorts than last year. Is that right?
Yes. In the Three Valleys, you'll be able to go directly to all the resorts of the Three Valleys. It's an agreement we have with this tour operator. So it's a good thing for us.
And also, I know there's another big announcement that's coming up this season. Les Trois Vallées is going to have a travel agency service as well, where people from all over the world will be able to book accommodation and packages direct with you. And I believe I'm right in saying that is launching today. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. It's a big news for us. It's the first time we launch our travel agency. It means that everybody in the world can book on lestraisvallées.com. That's very important for us. And as you probably said already, Jan, we want now to sell some journeys all year long. And we decided it was a good opportunity for us to try to sell during winter, but not only during winter.
Yeah, and well, I think that's one of the things. I mean, I love the mountains all year round, and I love going out in summer. Actually, I've just been out to the Alps myself in autumn, and it's also one of the best times to go because it's a bit quieter, and in between seasons, it's still a wonderful time to be in the Alps. So this winter, I'm looking forward to travelling to Les Trois Vallées. I'm hoping to go to Val Thorens to look at their new sports centre in December, and we'll see what else we can put together. I'd like to thank you very much for supporting the podcast, Olivier, and giving us your time today. We look forward to a great season together.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
So, listener, thanks for joining us so far on your journey. If by chance this is the first episode you've ever listened to, there are over 150 episodes out there, and I'm extremely proud of what I've created over the last 5 years. Every week, between 75 and 100 episodes get listened to. So feel free to catch up if you'd like. Or if you'd like to share the journey with us over the next 100 or more episodes, then make sure you subscribe. So thanks for your time today, and check your feed for our next episode coming soon.